Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our DebiCheck session. We really look forward to the session today, and we have a lot of important information to share with you. Today, the spotlight will be on DebiCheck collection systems. So basically what happened here is we received a number of questions specifically with regards to DebiCheck, how it works, and the practical implementation. Then one of our board members, David Hong, stated that perhaps we should have a session with our members. We started to brainstorm on this session, and yes, that is what we are having today. We are going to do presentations, have interactivity, and also do a question and answer session. I just want to make you aware of other sessions that will also take place. On the 22nd of June, there's the NCR webinar on Regulation 1913. Then on the 14th of July, we have a digital compliance session on debt counseling, which is also a very hot topic. And then on the 19th of July, we have a double impact workshop together with a credit ombuds. The program of today is DebiCheck, and we called it Back to Basics. So we basically want to inform you of what is DebiCheck, how it is done, what the basics is of DebiCheck. Then we are going to show you an ALPS video, a new pay advertisement, a PM8 video, a Sure Systems video. We are going to do a fun element with a lot of giveaways. And then we are going to do DebiCheck in practice. We are going to close the session off with a survey. And yes, hopefully you will remember all of the information. This session is also being recorded. So if you want to send this to your staff afterwards or to any key stakeholder, you are more than welcome to do so. Let's do some introductions on your speakers. Angeline van der Walt, she will be doing a number of the presentations. She has been the project and program management consultant since 2010 for payment systems project and on all of the payment systems, including SWIFT, EFT, and real-time clearing. She's managed projects and programs to Bank South Africa, PASA, and various banks, and she's a consultant project manager for the PSSF. I think Angeline is a very skilled individual. She has a lot of knowledge on DebiCheck, and she's definitely the guru in the industry. Presenting with her is Ken Vermaak. For some of you, it is a very familiar face. He's consulting to the PSSF on all AC-related issues. He retired from an industry service provider after 18 years in various capacities, from IT manager to special projects manager, including liaison with industry bodies. He's involved with the creation of the EDO payment stream and remained involved through its use as the basics of the AC payment stream. So Ken will also be presenting together with Angeline. So let's start with DebiCheck Back to Basics. Ken is going to do the presentation for us, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say, Ken.
Thank you, Leonie. Let me just get my face in the center of the screen here. Hi, everybody. I see there's a hell of a lot of people on the session, and I'm hoping to do justice to what we want to do. Samaya is going to bring up a presentation on screen. There we go. And I should have control so that I can scroll down these slides. Okay, as Leonie was saying, there's going to be two parts to this. Part one is I'm going to be looking at the basics and the history and so on. And in part two, after all the presentations, Angeline will be dealing with the details of DebiCheck and how it works and what's in place. So back to basics. I think the first thing we need to have a look at is just what we expect to achieve in this particular session. I want to have a look at the payment systems environment, who's involved, who's the players, and so on. I want to then have a look at the background as to how we actually got to where we are today. The actual DebiCheck architecture, how DebiCheck fits into the payment environment. The application of DebiCheck, and this is where Angeline is going to start taking over, the use of DebiCheck, and then some sources of information. What we will also have is a question session at the end of Angeline's session. So I'd like you to sort of make notes of your questions and hold on to those so that we can answer those questions at the end of the session. So without further ado, let me just bring up the next slide, and that is the actual payments environment. And just to have a look, just to familiarize ourselves with what we have, you as a user down the bottom here, you guys are the users, and you of course have the option of liaising directly with your sponsoring bank, or you can go via a service provider when you deal with your bank and getting your transactions into the system. The banks aren't allowed to talk to one another directly. Well, not really, but most of the information actually flows via BankServe or the PSO. You may also come across terms like the creditor bank and the debtor bank. The creditor bank is your sponsoring bank, because the sponsoring bank is going to credit you as user with what they've collected from the debtors on the debtor bank side. And of course, there is also the payer or your customer. And those are the people that's involved in the payment systems. Whether this is DebiCheck, the old EDO system, the normal debit orders. Now I've forgotten the abbreviation for those old debit orders. But anyway, all of these users and entities is part of the payment system in totality. Okay, so this going on then. In terms of the background, I've been involved with the payment system since the beginning of 2000 and 2001. And I've lived through the creation of the EDO payment system, where ADO and NADO came about. And we know what the problems are with the NADO system, and our ADO was actually, in our opinion, a better system than the NADO system. We know that in the NADO environment, what became a problem was cash management and the ease with which a user actually went and disputed and turned transactions around. You give them a loan of 5,000 Rand, he goes back to the bank and stops the payments, and you then have to battle to get that money from him at some time or the other. I don't know if you guys still make use of people with baseball bats, but yeah, you know, somehow you have to collect your money. All right. In 2012, the National Payment System Department of SARS actually then issued instructions to PASA to develop a better payment system to address the problems of cash management and disputes and reversals and that type of thing. You know, at that time, ADO, you had no disputes with ADOs because the person that you contracted with swiped their card on the point of sale device. They put the PIN in, and as far as the banks are concerned, that was a card-based transaction, and it couldn't be turned around because you, as the payer, was there. You agreed to this payment finishing clear, but in NADO, the banks didn't know that you were part of this transaction. So for them, it was the case of, well, we don't know if you're telling the truth or not, so we'll turn around the transaction, give you your money back, and you can go and fight with your service provider, or at least with your user that you had the money from. Okay, so the idea of authenticating a transaction and making sure that the bank, that's now the creditor bank, or at least the debtor bank, where your borrower has an account, that bank is aware of the transaction that is coming to your account in some time in the future. So the whole idea of authenticated transaction became the key to DebiCheck. And because not everybody had point of sale devices where the guy could put his card and PIN in, we had to develop other mechanisms of actually getting the authorization request through to the payer. And that's where the DebiCheck environment also brought into the fray the mobile network operators, Cell Cs and the Vodacoms and those guys, because one of the mechanisms that was felt was a useful device is to use USSD. If you don't have a point of sale device, you can use USSD to go and get that authentication from the payer. And we know that the USSD is not really working as much as what we'd hoped it would. And we'll talk about sort of future developments in a little while, a little bit later on. But again, we have this situation where there's a relationship between the user and the payer in terms of a contract and a promise to pay. There's a relationship between the user and the sponsoring bank to say, listen, I'm a good guy. You know, I've gone through the debit order selection process, and the sponsoring bank says, I'm okay. I'm not going to be a scallum in this environment. I happen to make use of a service provider, of which you're going to see some videos just now, the new pays and the Alpses and the Sure systems, those guys. And when we want to do a transaction, we'll have to, from a user point of view, either via the service provider or directly to the sponsoring bank, let this bank know what it is that you want to debit from whose account. That information is then passed through to BankServe. BankServe splits it up amongst all the other paying banks, and the paying banks then run the transaction early morning against the payer's account, and that way you hopefully get your money. All right. So that was the sort of the environment where DebiCheck is working in now. And one of the things that this paying bank has to do is to get this payer to authenticate this transaction. And one way that they do it is via the MNOs, and they're using USSD, or the user with the service provider has a point of sale device, and the transaction comes through to the paying bank as a pre-authorized transaction. They just have to record that in their mandate register. Okay. So we're going very, very quickly because we want to get through a lot of information in the short sessions that we have. I'm almost at the end of my section. Just to have a look at the environment where DebiCheck works in. There are different types of payment requirements out there. If we look on the right-hand side here, we've got fixed values and fixed values with a delivery charge and usage-based and all this type of thing. But those are sort of mandate types that we've had to go and design because of the different types of contracts that's out in the marketplace. For loan repayments, you want to get your money back on a fixed value. You may even want to use a sort of fluctuation, a variable rate thing if it's a long-term loan, especially when there's mortgage payments where you know that there's going to be increases in interest rates and that type of thing. There's purchase of goods, and if the guy goes and buys a fridge at the either Bears or Joshua Door, I don't even know if Joshua Door's still alive. But there could be a fixed payment with a delivery charge on the first installment. So you have this first installment that is bigger than your normal installment. So that's what we've had to go and design for. Then you've got your cell phone type of contracts where you either have a fixed amount, your contract is your contract, or the cell phone company says, no, wait a minute, we're going to give you a contract, but we also give you a usage. If you go more on your data or more on your airtime, we need to debit you for more than your fixed amount. So we're going to use a usage-based item, and between us, we'll agree that we can increase the debit on your account up to 1.5 times your normal fixed amount. Variable interest rate fluctuations, where there's a repo rate involved for mortgage payments. That was another way of having to deal with the way that people pay their debts. And then, of course, you've got your straightforward sort of like a gym contract or something, or a subscription of some sort, where over time there's an increase or a fixed percentage increase every year. So we've had to go and design these types of mandates, and that's why you have your fixed mandate, your variable mandate, and your usage mandate, so that you can apply that mandate type to the type of contract that you have with your customer. Okay, so that's about where I am, and I'm not sure if, yeah, it looks like my timing is not too bad. So as I say, we'll have a session afterwards with Angeline, and then after that we'll have some questions. So for now, that's me and my story. Thank you, Sinai.
Great, thank you so much, Ken. Okay, so that was a short and sweet session by Ken. We really do appreciate it. And now we are going to have a look at some of the collection service providers. So the first one is ALPS.
We live in a country where there are currently 11 million South Africans who are unbanked or underbanked. That's nearly 1 in 5 South Africans who are not financially included and without the means, the structures, and the tools to ensure their financial empowerment. One of the most important ways of accelerating financial inclusion is to build trust in financial products and services. And at ELPS, we aim to provide solutions that instill that sense of trust and confidence. Our mission is to use our innovative and adaptable technological capabilities already at work in the collections and payments space to power growth in our economy, to collaborate with partners and actively work towards maintaining and improving a world-class, sustainable and accessible national payment system, to reduce our country's dependency on cash, to ensure financial inclusion, to build a legacy of trust, and to accelerate financial freedom. This is what drives us and moves us forward every single day. We use our 20 years of functional and technical experience in the collections and payments space to significantly reduce operational and financial challenges and make transactions affordable, accessible, and secure. We simplify and automate processes to give your business greater control over payments and collections, and giving you back valuable time. We continually develop and adapt our solutions in line with evolving customer demands to unlock new revenue opportunities for you. We provide best-in-class security and compliance capabilities for managing financial and fraud risk, to give your customers total peace of mind. And we deliver our solutions with a dedicated focus on customer care, coupled with on-site consultants and a technical support center to give you the trusted support you need when you need it. It's time to take control of your collection and payment needs. It's time to accelerate financial freedom. It's time to get ELPS I, a powerful, all-inclusive front-end solution. Or enjoy our seamless integration capabilities with privately owned and commercially available debtor management systems. Take your business anywhere with the ELPS mobile platform. Get access to our wide range of payment streams and services, including DebiCheck, EFT credits and debits, account verification services, and the ability to process real-time debit and credit card payments through our ELPS POS solution. Our products offer a secure, simple, and convenient way to transact, making a world of difference to your business, to our economy, and to the people of our country. ELPS, South Africa's most innovative collections and payments solution provider.
Right, thank you very much. And that was the video of ELPS. This is also their telephone number and also their website address. Right, up next, an advertisement of NewPay and Delta. NewPay and Delta offers an all-in-one solution that comprised of consumer management, customer management system, integrated payment systems, integrated to credit bureaus, insurance services, paperless solutions, notification services, and SACRA compliance. This is just NewPay and Delta and all of the information that they provide. This is also their cell phone, their telephone number and their website address. Make sure that you contact them. Up next, a video of Paymate. Great. That is the information for Payem8. This is the telephone number and also their website address. Next up, we have Sure Systems.
We've all seen a movie with two strong tough guys, each equipped with a baseball bat sent to collect money. Why not opt for one of the best solutions for collecting payments from your clients without the need of a couple of brawny goons? Managing recurring payments can be overwhelming. At Sure Systems, we've developed Sure Debit, a cost-effective payment solution for collecting money from your customers' bank accounts. It's safer, features a user-friendly interface, and works on any browser or mobile device. Sure Debit gives you easy and organized access to your client's payment information and is built for all transactional types of DebiCheck currently available on the market, either face-to-face with your client using a card swipe machine or not face-to-face using a cell phone. DebiCheck is similar to a debit order payment system, but by requiring authentication, it's more secure and convenient, giving you and your customer peace of mind. Better yet, DebiCheck collections are processed before EFT debit orders on a client's bank account. If you prefer something different, we also offer cash access cards, a simple and practical cashless payout solution for your business, as well as traditional EFT debit orders. Sure Debit also features an easy integration module with which you can manage your payments directly using your own custom designed software. With our latest technology and over 15 years of experience in payments, we pride ourselves on speed, quality of service, uptime, and reliability. At Sure Systems, our clients are our business partners. We understand the many challenges that startups and existing businesses may face. We strive to equip you with the necessary tools to grow your business and look forward to walking this journey with you.
Right, that is Sure Systems, 087-820-1423, www.suresystems.co.za. Right, let's go into the fun element. So what we are going to do here is only credit providers, not service providers, can participate. 2 questions, 2 winners, and each winner will receive a 250 Rand Take-A-Lot voucher. First person to answer correctly in the chat box will be the winner, and the winner must please send an email to admin@mfsa.net to redeem your prize. Okay, so let's go to the multiple choice quiz. Hey,
P. Fano.
you are the winner. Congratulations. Remember to email admin@mfsa.net to redeem your prize. Congratulations. Next question.
Hey, Lesedi.
Congratulations, Lesedi. You are the winner, and the answer is the 31st of October, 2021. Right, this was very, very quick. I think everyone was on their laptops now, and thank you for participating. Great. Up next, we have our presentation for DebiCheck in practice. Thank you, Angeline. We look forward to your presentation.
Good morning, everybody. There's a few things that people know about me. Number 1, I talk very fast, and number 2, I say a lot. So I'm going to try to keep to the 25 minutes that I've been given so that we can get through here. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's happening with DebiCheck in production at the moment. DebiCheck is now a fully productionized system, and it is being managed by the Payment Clearinghouse Participant Group. It's no longer seen as a project within the PASA environment. So as I'm probably talking to the people who know what's happening. So from a mandate authentication methods perspective, there are various ways that you can authenticate the mandate. You can initiate a Tt1 real-time transaction, a Tt1 delay transaction, a Tt2 or a Tt3. Most of you probably make use of Tt1 and a real-time and Tt1 delay, and a lot of you make use of the Tt3. I saw that the service providers were showing in the video about the Tt3s that's happening. Then obviously, if you do not get a response on your mandate authentication request, and you receive the NRSP back from when the data bank sends the message, when the data bank sends the message through to the data, they can decide to respond or not respond. They can accept, decline, or they can ignore the message that they receive. If they ignore the message that they receive, the data bank would send the user a NRSP. That's a no response received from the data. That allows the creditor, the user, then to generate a registered mandate request, which is similar to the old NADOs. Now, if we look at the collections from a collection perspective, the timing is extremely important around the collections. So the banks expect the credit bank expect the creditor to submit their collections as per the legal agreement that has been signed between the creditor and the creditor bank. That then talks to what are your cutoff times and when the files needs to be sent through to the creditor bank. That creditor bank will then do create the submission request files, which they would then send through to the data bank, through to BankServe. BankServe will collate all those files and send the request files out to the data bank. The data bank will then, after the bank has done the credit run in the middle of the morning, so action date is normally the next day that you submit these requests to. The creditor run happens at midnight. Soon thereafter, once the creditor run has been completed, the debit run for DebiCheck and ADO is run. So DebiCheck and ADO is randomized together and submitted in the first priority window in the early morning. Then thereafter, you've got the second priority window, which is RMS and NADO, all the migrated NADOs that are being run. Once that is being done, the responses are generated, and your tracking responses obviously form part of that. So by 6 o'clock in the morning, the creditor bank should have all the responses back to them. They would then collate it and send it out to the creditors, the users, and the users will then take those responses, apply it to their own internal contracts with their clients, and make sure that they've got the most updated information there. From a data perspective, when the transaction goes into tracking, you guys are aware of the full credit and the minimal credit tracking. The difference with DebiCheck is that you only have got 10 days, a maximum of 10 days for credit tracking. So that is what then we are then limited to 10 days for tracking. You get your response first thing in the morning that says, okay, the transaction was successfully put into tracking, successfully collected against, insufficient funds are sent if you haven't requested for the transaction to go into tracking and there are no funds, and then we go on with the day. The transactions can fail for various reasons. So from a mandate initiation perspective, you've got authorization that the client can decline, the no response, which then results in you receiving the NRSP response, generating the RMS transaction, or then upfront rejections. Now, if you guys would just bear with me for a second, I just want to read off some of the errors that we are seeing coming through from a Tt1 delayed perspective, the most significant one is invalid data identifier on mandate and account is not matched to ID number. This means that between 40 and 45% of the rejections are based on incorrect data identification. So for instance, you're putting the wrong ID number. That could be finger trouble. It's a long number for a staff member to populate, or it could be that somebody is trying their luck and using their ID number on somebody else's account, and we know that that's fraud. The duplicate requests sits at number 5 on the list, and that is normally because of you not receiving your responses in time, and that allows you then from your side that results in you kicking off a transaction, a second transaction. When we look at Tt1 real time, again, invalid data account identifier and account not matched to ID number makes up in this case between 30 and 35% of the rejections. 14.25% is because of incorrect contact details. I don't know how many of you are aware, but ABSA and FNB has launched their in-app authentication. So where the consumer has got the app installed on a registered device, they will then receive the in-app notification, and they would then approve the mandate there. The other one is from a Tt3 perspective. Tt3 errors are not as prolific as the Tt1 and Tt2 errors, but let's look at it. So MAC is invalid. That is when the MAC that is sent to the user is then rejected when the user sends it back to the bank. Sometimes the bank's authorization systems go out of sync, and then you get that MAC is invalid coming back. Duplicate requests and is the second highest at 16+%. Looking at the collection failure, so why I'm mentioning this to you is if you go and look at the errors that you are receiving and you've got questions around why are you receiving that, you are welcome to come through and we can look at it. Ian, I'm not allowed to add this data into a slide presentation. That is, this is data that is provided by PASA, and I'm allowed to give it to you as a communication, but not give it to you as a email that I send through to you. And that is why I'm stuck on the same slide, if anybody was wondering. So from a collections perspective, the errors that we are seeing from a collection perspective is mostly mandate in suspended state, and we'll talk about the mandate suspensions just now. Multiple collections in a payment cycle sitting at 60%. That is where you are sending more than one collection in the same window, and everybody is aware that you are only allowed to send a representment and the collection for the month in the payment cycle. Deceased accounts, account closed, account on hold, and insufficient funds are the normal ones coming through still. So from an ultimate credit, if we move to mandate management, that is where you can amend or cancel mandates or do recalls on mandates. From a payer perspective, the payer is only allowed to do a suspension. A payer cannot do anything else with the mandate but suspend it. They can request a dispute and lodge a dispute, but as you guys are aware, from a dispute perspective, it's only allowed to be disputed because of amount and date being in dispute. You cannot dispute for any other reason, and the data bank actually validates whether that is the case. When you dispute an date, when the date adjustment happens where the collection falls on a non-processing day, for instance, a Sunday or a public holiday, and it's a 6-day bank, they only process for 6 days, then that collection is moved to the next day. More about that in a few seconds. Also, a creditor, you as user can amend the mandate. You can some amendments result in a reauthentication request going out to the consumer, and some is just the basic notification that's sent to the consumer to advise there has been a change made to your mandate. The reauthentication ones, obviously, if the client does not reauthenticate, that means that you fall back to what is currently in place, and it is as if there was no amendment request. Some amendments, for instance, if you change the ID number or stuff or anything that is critical, results in a new mandate that is required to be created, and you start from scratch with that. Cancellations, if collections or if mandates aren't cancelled or removed within 13 months, the creditor data as well as BankServe will archive those mandates after 13 months. Then if we look at issues with post-collection, so we spoke about the insufficient funds that you can do a representment. That is where your May collection was not successful, and you run it with your June collection, not as one collection, but as 2 collections. And that means that you have maxed out your 2 collections per payment cycle. You can also not do 2 payments, normal payments in a collection cycle. Disputes, we spoke about the dates and the amounts being the only allowed disputable reversible requests from a consumer's perspective. Then if we look at suspensions, which is a big problem at the moment, you are able to unsuspend a suspension. You send an amendment to unsuspend it. You can either unsuspend it as is, or say, for instance, you now need to, and have agreed with the client that you want to now need to collect more per month because they've missed 2 or 3 months worth of payments and their monthly repayment amount is now higher. You can do a unsuspension with changes, but again, the client will have to approve both the as is as well as the with changes suspensions. Then I don't know how many of the people on the line is aware there are different information sources. Most of you make use of your sponsoring bank or your system operator to get information. If you've got a system operator, they're normally your first point of contact. If you go directly via a sponsoring bank, they are always your first point of contact. They can refer you to the DebiCheck website, where there's a public website part, and then there's a website part that requires the user to log in. Not everybody can get access to that. That's only available to people working at a legitimate registered creditor that is on the PASA's creditor list. And you can request access by sending an email to admin@debicheck.co.za. When you go into that website, there's the specific DebiCheck collateral provided there. Everybody is aware of the DebiCheck decoded document that's there. That is like a manual for how you, an ABSA or a Capitec or a FNB requires their consumer, their client, to authenticate the mandate and detail around how the in-app process works from an FNB perspective or an ABSA perspective. What's also there is very nice advertising and training material that you can customize to your own needs. You can put your own logo on there as well. There are obviously restrictions with regards to what the look and feel and everything around that. Quick heads up on the incident process. Incident process is if you've got a system operator, you log an issue with the system operator, your legal agreement will talk to how you deal with issues that you pick up, whether that and how the escalation process works, whether you escalate, whether you've got multiple levels of escalation or only the one escalation, the call center, that is documented in your legal agreement. The incident logging with your sponsoring bank. Also, you can log incidents with your sponsoring bank as per your legal agreement with your sponsoring bank. Everybody needs to have a bank. So if you don't come right with your system operator, your next point of call is your sponsoring bank, or if you go directly by your sponsoring bank, that is obviously your first point of call. You are allowed and you are welcome to escalate any non-resolution issues to the Payments Association of South Africa. PASA will assist in any way that they can to try and mediate the challenge between the user and their bank. System challenges that's currently happening and that's currently being experienced and actions that are in progress. Mandate initiation request failures. There is a big problem with no responses from the data that Ken also spoke about. There are technical failures, mainly MNO issues, that's your mobile network operator issues. Apologies, that impact on your mandate initiation request acceptance or no responses received. Payer contactability, as we are all aware, is a big issue with the cell phone portability. That is, most of the consumers make use of multiple cell phones and change cell phones on a day-to-day basis, and that results in payer contactability challenges. And then the in-app authentications I've spoken about previously that has been implemented by ABSA and FNB. The other banks are in progress, and we hope to have more news about that soon. From an RMS perspective, registered mandate services, those transactions obviously are processed with your migrated natives in the second window in the morning after your DebiCheck and your ADO transactions has been processed. Those are not authorized by the payers, so the reversals and disputes process for RMS is similar to the old NATO process. The advantage of the RMS is that even though you don't get a response from the consumer, you are still able to complete the mandate registration process. Currently, there are two things happening specifically around initiations. There is the Alternative Authorization Methods Working Group that was established by PASA that is looking at alternative authorization methods, not just in-app authentications, to allow for variation in and hopefully a better authentication rate. And then an awareness and education work group that was established to assist with the no response from data, to explain to them why they need to do it and what happens from that perspective. Leonie forwarded a number of questions to me and Ken around date adjustments, disputes, and suspensions. From a date adjustment perspective, please bear in mind that the NCA, NCR rules and regulations need to be adhered to. And the current rule for date adjustment that does not open the user up to reversals is that the date adjustment is where the action date moves to the following business day when the collections action date is on a non-processing day for a 6-day processing bank. So that is not the ideal from a, we know that on a, if collection date falls on the 15th and it's a Sunday, the employer will pay the employee normally on the Friday prior to the Sunday. And by the time that the Monday comes around, the Saturday and Sunday, all the funds have been taken out of the account. Unfortunately, that's the rule at the moment. So even though your date adjustment indicator is marked as yes, the date is allowed to be moved, this still results in a potential reversal when the client goes and disputes that because it's on a different date. There is currently work groups looking at the date adjustment as a whole from a legal perspective and from a legal perspective, looking at the NCA, NCR that must be adhered to, as well as making sure that the user can actually collect based on the date adjustment indicator being more prominent and allowing collections to be moved to a sensible time. From a dispute perspective, we've talked about it. Not all this, anybody can go and dispute at any time, but not all disputes can be reversed. So it results in a reversal only where the date and the amount is different. And again, the only exception is where the processing falls on with a 6-day processor on a non-processing day. Those are unfortunately with the date adjustment indicator being yes, the consumer can still go in, dispute the mandate because you collected it on the Friday, and the bank is then obliged to allow them to reverse the transaction so that they get their funds back. Consumers have got a bostelegraaf, we say in Afrikaans, that allows the information to be distributed very, very quickly. And suspensions is one of those things that has hit the bostelegraaf very, very hard. Suspensions currently is being used when a consumer does not realize that if they go to dispute the collection, like they normally did in NADO, and they get their money back, this results in the contract being, the mandate being completely cancelled. This is a problem that's been raised at the highest level. The PSSF, PASA, SARB, and FSCA had a meeting yesterday where this was discussed. There's work groups that has been put into play, and I think some of the users on the telephone on the meeting at the moment was part of the request for information that was sent out, requesting information on what is the validity of the suspensions happening. That means that, for instance, your process is a bit slow, so the mandate was cancelled, but you, by the fact that you already submitted your collection files through to your creditor bank, that collection was sent through, and the client went into the bank and disputed it, and then that mandate needs to be suspended. That is a valid suspension because the contract is expired, not when the contract is still in force, but the contract has expired, but due to timing issues, the next collection was already submitted and resulting in a unexpected next collection. There are a few other rules around suspensions, but I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. These two other questions that we received is, unfortunately, we can't do anything about this. We need the users, when they pick up these two issues, where, for instance, the banks does not allow clients to dispute or suspend their own debit orders, but they can dispute or suspend users' debit orders. That's on the call. You have to provide proof to your sponsoring banks so that they can take up that issue. Similarly, where banks can enforce that the client joins their insurance policies and activate a DebiCheck. Without the client's knowledge, that should not ever be possible. But if you pick up anything like that, please feel free to make note of it, record it, take screenshots, whatever you can have as proof, and take that through to your sponsoring bank so that they can raise any questions and any issues. So from a next steps perspective, in the DebiCheck world, continued improvement is still ongoing. Stability of the system is still very high on the agenda. Various work groups have been established, as mentioned, and it's moved into the low value portfolio as a product that's fully productionalized. All incidents needs to be logged through your sponsoring bank. All communication will come via your sponsoring bank. You need to be very close to your sponsoring bank, asking them to advise you if there's new and exciting news that has come, so that you've got that information. And then I think, Leonie, it's back to you guys with some questions or discussions around DebiCheck.
Great, thank you very much, Angeline, for the presentation. Okay, let's get into the discussion part. Luckily, we have the gurus here in the audience. So, is there any questions from our members or that you want to ask Angeline or Ken? I don't see anything in the chat box now. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes. Angeline, is there anything else you want to highlight specifically with regards to your presentation?
We will obviously share the presentation with everybody, and if there's any feedback or comments, they're welcome to send it through to me. I will unfortunately have to refer them to their sponsoring bank in some instances, but if it's just a question, we will be able to help. The pay date move, as mentioned while I was discussing it, there is a work group that has been formed by PASA, and they are having discussions around the payday move. And falling on a Friday, as long as you are not breaching the National Credit Act, that hopefully you can move the collection at the moment. If you've got the date adjustment as yes, you're just going to be open then for disputes and reversing of that collection. RMS. Okay, so Leonie, I'm just taking the questions as they're popping up on the chat. So from an RMS perspective, so registered mandate services is similar to a similar to a NADO transaction, but you still send through a mandate request through to the data bank that then needs to register the mandate on their back end. The reason for that is that sometimes the data that gets sent through, like the telephone number or stuff, is incorrect, or you might decide that you want to not proceed with this mandate, and then you do not generate the RMS from your side. I think, Ralton, if you don't mind, you can send me an email and I can take you through the actual RMS process. And if there's a lot of people that have got the same query, Leonie, maybe we can have a session around RMS. There is plans to move RMS to the EFT slot in the afternoons because it's not an authenticated mandate. The intent for DebiCheck has always been that, or before DebiCheck has always been that only authenticated mandates will be run in the early morning, and non-authenticated mandates will then be run at the time of at the same time as EFT. There's nothing on the cards. There has been discussion about dates and stuff, but PASA has gone back to SOB, asking them that we delay the move of RMS to the lower priority windows. Ken, I see your hand is up. I don't know if you've got a comment on one of the things I've said.
Angelina, I just wanted to assure everybody that DebiCheck is a working product. Well, in terms of being worked on to improve all the time. So between ourselves, the PSSF and PASA and the banks, with input from the users in terms of their particular problems that they experience, we're always looking at those problems and looking for ways that we can alleviate those. I see there's some questions about when is suspensions going to be resolved and that type of thing. Guys, we are working on those. Unfortunately, in this payment system, it's not just ourselves that can make up rules. It has to be agreed to by everybody. The SARB, specifically the NPSD, they also have to give the green light on some of these changes. So we rest assured that we are working on getting these things resolved, but unfortunately it's taking a bit of time, and we have to live with some of those issues at the moment. But please, when you come across things like the guys are saying, but some banks are allowing disputes on amounts and stuff like that just for willy-nilly, when the amounts are correct and the dates are correct, but they still allow a dispute. Guys, get that information, bring that detail to your sponsoring bank, tell your sponsoring bank to go and knock Capitec or the other bank on the head. Sorry, Minister, using the Capitec example, but go take it up with your bank, and if it doesn't get resolved, bring that information to the to PASA, because PASA will also take the banks on a compliance inquiry and make sure that they comply with the rules as they're supposed to. But they have to have proof of what is happening out in the marketplace. Help us, please. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I'm going to continue with what I see here. So, guys, I'm not ignoring anybody. I'm just going down chronologically down the track. If a customer gets paid weekly, do we have to set 4 different DebiChecks? No, there is a DebiCheck scenario that sets a weekly collection. So, Gabby, if you need any information, you're welcome to speak to me or Ken about it. We will gladly assist you. Leonie, can I ask that we funnel things through the MFSA to us, because then you guys can keep us honest and make sure that we go back to everybody within a timeliest period.
Yes, that's not a problem.
And I don't miss anybody, because I don't want to miss out on anybody's questions. Okay, Isabel, I'm not sure about what you mean in terms of not allowing disputes. Disputes are allowed. Disputes will always be allowed. Anybody, you can go to Checkers and dispute your account, you can your bill. You can go to Edgar's and you can dispute your bill. That does not mean that they have to give you your money back. So anybody can walk into a bank and complain about the DebiCheck collection, but only if the amount and the date is contrary to what is on the mandate initiation will a reversal be done of that fee. So that is what Ken was speaking about. If that is the case, that when the date and amount is correct, you guys are getting disputes, collections being reversed, you have to go and raise that with your bank.
Sorry, yeah. Angeline, just providing, of course, that was an authenticated debit order and not an RMS, because remember, RMS can be turned around at the flick of a switch.
And
authenticate, yeah, and NAIDO, but a properly authenticated debit order is protected.
Yes. So NAIDO and migrated NAIDO and RMS, you are at risk. Just bear in mind that you can make a NAIDO into a fully fledged DebiCheck if you do an authenticated mandate with them. So you can take that same mandate and do an authentication, an amendment on that mandate, and get an authentication on that mandate. Then it is a fully fledged DebiCheck going forward. So don't forget about the value of authenticated amendments going there. Sabas, it is a very long process because there's various different stakeholders involved, regulators involved, different legal premises that needs to be taken into consideration. For instance, the National Credit Act does not allow you to collect prior to the date in the contract. I'm not an expert on that. I'm just putting it out there. Whereas from an insurance perspective, that is not the case. So now you've got two laws competing with each other. That is what the complexity is. So you've got SARB speaking to the FSCA, speaking to the NCRs. So it's a whole bunch of people involved, and getting everybody around the table and to understand and to see the same picture is also a long process. In terms of stated messages appearing as stopped but collected on statement of the consumer, please raise that as an incident with your sponsoring bank or your SO immediately. That should not be the case. Because if you receive a suspension notice, collection in suspended state, that should not appear as a collection on the consumer statement. Leonie, you must stop me if I'm running over time. I'm not actually watching the clock here, okay?
Please proceed.
So I'm going to continue until somebody stops me. So are we able to move a debit order to a Friday before the... Yes, if your date adjustment indicator is set as yes, and please make sure that if it's set as yes, you are still going to, if you move it to the Friday, you are allowed to, and it will go through and it will be collected. If it's no, it will not go, it will not pass through, and it will not be collected. It will be rejected out of hand. If it is collected on the Friday, even if it's collected on the Monday only, that debit order is open, that collection is open to be reversed. So just bear that in mind. Why is it that Capitec allows disputes regardless the amount or dates? Please, again, if it's not RMS and not migrated NADO, raise it with your sponsoring bank as an incident so that Capitec can look at that, because that is not supposed to be happening. DebiCheck is not working for us. Or what would be a solution for the future collection apps that allow clients to dispute? Okay. I think I have answered the question, but apologies if I haven't. So I'll just quickly, if I'm boring anybody. So there is no new replacement of DebiCheck in the cards at the moment. So DebiCheck itself needs to be improved to be a working solution for most people. That is why we are having the discussions from a PSSF, PASA, SARB, etc. perspective. Suspension issue, I think Ken answered this. I am not sure when it will be resolved. It is a high priority, and the Reserve Bank as well as the FSCA has had meetings with PASA and the PSSF as early as yesterday already as well. A session on RMS would be helpful, as we find many fails on our submissions. Please, Leonie, if you don't mind, or if anybody wants, it doesn't need to be the full group. If there's a specific grouping that needs a specific meeting, I'm just quickly looking to see what the error codes are from a message element must not be 0 or spaces, invalid mandate initiation date on mandate, duplicate request. So can I ask that anybody that's got problems with their RMS need to just check what are the errors that they're receiving, the rejections that they're receiving from an RMS perspective. If they've got questions, they can raise it to me. If need be, we can have a session on RMS, or if they can speak with their sponsoring bank or their system operator to assist them with that. Several clients insert the incorrect salary dates during their application. These are updates based on payslip, bank statements. How can these be disputed when the collection dates are factual and accepted by the client? Okay, so if you are collecting on the date that is in the mandate that you send up, when you send up the mandate, there are a few mandatory fields that need to be shared with the consumer. One of them is the amount, and another one is the date, the collection date. That if you are collecting on that action date with the amount, then it should not be actually reversible. When you are using the client statement as a guidance for the collection, for when you do the collection, and it's different to what is on the mandate that the client authenticated, that means that the client is then open to go and dispute and reverse those collections. Or if the date adjustment indicator is no, that means that the data bank will reject those collections out of hand because it's not according to the rules. If you've got questions still around that, you're welcome to send Leonie an email or the MFSA team an email, and I will assist you with that. Also allowing disputes regardless. Jean, the only way to handle this is to please raise an incident through your bank for each and every one where the dispute was allowed, regardless of date and amount. Email address. Okay, and I've asked that you guys please go via MFSA, but Leonie, you're welcome to share my email address with everybody as well. We have had several instances where on the day of collection, before actual collection has been made, the status states mandate in a suspended state and the date is correct, as well as the amount unchanged. The debtor has had the option to suspend the mandate with our knowledge, only for us to find out about it. And there are okay. So with regards to a suspended suspensions, if you do not receive the notification that the mandate has been put into a suspended state from the data bank, please raise that as an incident as well through your sponsoring bank or your SO, because you're supposed to be advised immediately when the client suspends the mandate that the client is now, that the collection mandate is now in a suspended state. If that is not happening, that then is an incident and it needs to be addressed. The second part of the question is, unfortunately, suspensions at the moment is being addressed as there is nothing stopping or blocking the consumer from suspending the mandate. There's an education process that's being kicked off, as well as an investigation on how to address this best. My best suggestion to you is, when you are having the conversation with the client and you are doing the sale, let's call it a sale, you need to make them aware that they are going to be in contravention of the legal contract, the binding contract that they signed with you. Not just the mandate, and the collection process is just a facilitation of funds being moved. Your contract, the legal contract that you sign with the consumer that state what's good, what goods and services, what the amounts are, etc., that is the legal, and that is a enforceable contract according to the law. So you guys need to make sure that your consumer is 100% aware that they are actually breaking the law and being fraudulent if they do a suspension. Some of them say that they did not know, if they go for a suspension, that the whole mandate is then cancelled. They thought, like in NADO, they can do a suspension and then next month the collection will continue. Please, guys, if you have got any questions on it, I would suggest that you update your sales script or whatever you call it, that you can make the consumer aware what the implications are of what they are doing. I want to know on the possibility of clients not being able to suspend their DebiChecks. Is that possible? It is in process at the moment. The guys are looking at it. Time Bank has sent an email, and for the life of me, I can't remember when they're going live. I think it's September or October that they're going live with DebiCheck. Leonie, can I ask you, may I send you the email with the date, the latest that I know on Time Bank? And we can just look at that. Discovery, I have not received any communication from when Discovery will be going live. Capitec is a big culprit okay, Victoria, same as with everybody, please raise it as an incident. It's a working, but improvement has to be done faster. Savas, I hope we can get it done as quickly as possible. We are like a leaking tap, and we are complaining the whole time. MFSA is, PSSF is, ASISA is, all the associations are complaining and reaching, listing challenges with DebiCheck not being a workable solution for everybody. Sorry guys, my throat is gone. I did not think I was going to get some questions.
Yeah. So if it was me, I wouldn't have had a voice. So yeah. I think let's take another 2 questions, and yeah, then we're done.
There's just a few left. There's just a handful left. Okay. ABSA doing the same again, raised an incident. How do we solve that? The one that stopped their debit orders. That is the suspensions. I don't have an answer for you for this. So hopefully we can get to a brilliant solution, and that's why the guys are looking at various options in order to do some stuff. But installment shorter than if it's made 3 months. I've experienced that lately. I cannot answer that question. What does it mean? It's accepted and then after day or 2 it expires. Tracy, I need you to send me details around that. I don't know. Send it to Leonie. When you mean the bank that I bank with? No, your bank is the creditor bank, or the sponsoring bank. The client that comes and borrows money from you that you pay the money out to is the debtor, or it goes to the debtor bank. Rather than share little collections in advance, according that is one of the options, Isabel, that's on the cards. We have a few clients that wanted to cancel clientele to Capitec, and then our dates and amounts were correct. I'm not sure, Heinrich, I can't answer this. How come a client authenticates via and are able to cancel DebiCheck in? That you guys need to let me know. If those are the ones that we are trying to solve. I can't answer the question, Nima. I'm not in this world well enough to be able to assist you with that. Apologies. Leonie, I think before we get another 100 questions, can we maybe close and have another session if you need?
So I think it was a great session, and thank you for getting to all of the questions. I think you are the first speaker who actually attended to all of the questions. I think if you have a question, you can send it to admin@mfsa.net. And after this meeting, we will also get together with Angeline and Ken again. And I think we should have another session like this, because there's obviously a lot of operational issues that we have to deal with. So please send the questions to admin@mfsa.net so we can establish, what is the theme of the next session. I think this was very, very informative, and there's obviously a need for it again. Please take our survey. Sunay is going to type it now into the chat box. And also in the survey, there is a part where it says, what other questions do you have? Or perhaps, you think the next one should be, the next subject should be on this and this and this. So I think that would be good. I think there's a a lot of clients, there's also interesting questions on debt counseling that we are seeing here, and we will also have a session on debt counseling. But when you fill in the survey, please indicate what other questions you have or what other subjects you want to attend to. Once again, Angeline and Ken, thank you so much for the presentation. We really do appreciate it. We really do appreciate your time. And for our members, thank you so much for attending. We hope you found it informative, and I think we will schedule another session in due course. And David, thank you so much for this initiative. Great. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, and goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good day. Bye-bye.